Dr. Zethkar's 4 eyes rolled in practiced disdain as he reviewed the human specimen's file. The creature, patient, he corrected himself with clinical detachment, sat on the examination table, its primitive bipedal form somehow managing to look both fragile and irritatingly confident. Species designation Homo sapiens, Zethkar muttered into his recording device, his translator rendering the words in the human's crude tongue. Origin, Sol 3, colloquially known as Earth. Classification, pre-spaceflight barbarian recently granted provisional galactic citizenship. The human, a female named Sarah Chen according to the file, raised an eyebrow. Barbarian? That's a bit harsh, don't you think? Zethkar's mandibles clicked in what his species considered polite amusement. As chief xenobiologist at Nexus Medical Station, he had examined hundreds of species seeking entry into the Galactic Confederation. Humans were, by far, the most laughably inadequate he'd encountered. No offense intended, he lied smoothly. However, your species' biological specifications are concerning. Single heart, linear digestive system, carbon-based chemistry, water dependency. He gestured dismissively with one of his 6 arms. Frankly, I'm surprised you survived long enough to develop spaceflight. Sarah leaned back, crossing her arms. We're tougher than we look. Indeed. Zethkar's voice dripped skepticism. Let us proceed with the standard Confederation fitness assessment. Fair warning, only 63% of applicant species pass on their first attempt. The tests began routinely enough. Cardiovascular stress analysis revealed the expected single-pump circulatory system. Neural mapping showed a disappointingly simple brain structure. Cellular regeneration rates were pathetically slow compared to proper civilized species. Temperature tolerance? Zethkar asked, preparing to note another failure. What's the range? Sarah inquired. Standard assessment covers -40 to +60 degrees Celsius. That should be fine. Zethkar paused. Most species required environmental suits for anything beyond a 20-degree range. You're certain? Doc, I'm from Minnesota. I've gone ice fishing in weather that would freeze your, well, whatever you breathe with. The temperature chamber results were unusual. Not only did the human survive the full range, but her core temperature remained stable throughout. Most species showed severe stress responses at the extremes. Sarah Chen merely shivered slightly at the low end and sweated at the high end. Curious, Zethkar muttered, making notes. Toxin-resistant screening next. This was where most species failed catastrophically. The Confederation had cataloged over 10,000 naturally occurring poisons across member worlds. Even the hardiest species typically succumbed to at least half. The first injection contained a moderate neurotoxin that paralyzed most nervous systems within minutes. Sarah felt dizzy for 30 seconds, then returned to normal. The second was a cellular disruptor that liquefied most organic tissue. She complained of mild nausea. By the 15th injection, Zethkar's confidence had evaporated entirely. By the 30th, his hands were trembling. At the 50th successful resistance, he stopped the test. This is impossible, he whispered. What did you say your planet was like? Sarah shrugged. Pretty typical, I guess. Oxygen, nitrogen atmosphere, lots of water, diverse ecosystem. Why? Define diverse ecosystem. Well, we've got everything from bacteria that eat radiation to fish that live in boiling underwater vents. Plenty of predators, sharks, big cats, bears, crocodiles, poisonous snakes, spiders, jellyfish. She paused at his expression. Is that not normal? Zethkar's breathing apparatus fluttered rapidly. Your world is a death trap. How does anything survive there? Evolution, I guess. We adapted or died. The ones who survived got to reproduce. The doctor's worldview was crumbling. His own species hailed from a carefully balanced world with minimal temperature variation, few toxins, and virtually no predation pressure. Most Confederation species had similar origins, stable, predictable environments that fostered gradual, technological development. The radiation resistance test, he stammered, gesturing toward the next chamber. Lead the way. The radiation that should have given her acute poisoning barely registered. The electromagnetic fields that scrambled most species' nervous systems gave her a mild headache. The pressure changes that crushed typical physiology made her ears pop. I don't understand, Zethkar muttered, staring at readouts that defied everything he knew about biology. Your species should have gone extinct millions of years ago. Yeah, we almost did. Several times, actually. Ice ages, supervolcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, massive die-offs. But life, finds a way. You survived planetary extinction events? Multiple ones. We're pretty good at adapting. Had to be. Earth doesn't give you much choice. The final test was psychological resilience. Most species broke under simulated, crisis scenarios within hours. Sarah lasted 3 days of continuous pressure, sleep deprivation, and stress before showing significant impairment. Even then, she maintained tactical thinking and problem-solving abilities that impressed the monitoring systems. When the results compiled, Zethkar stared at his screens in stunned silence. Perfect scores across every category. Not just passing grades. The human had exceeded maximum parameters in most tests. Dr. Zethkar, Sarah's voice seemed to come from very far away. Everything okay? He turned to face her, seeing humanity with completely different eyes. Not primitive barbarians, but survivors of a crucible that would have destroyed his entire civilization. Every human carried the genetic legacy of billions of years of survival against impossible odds. The Confederation, he said slowly, has been looking for species capable of handling frontier worlds. Planets too harsh for normal colonization. Sarah nodded. Makes sense. We never found any. Until now. He set down his instruments with trembling appendages. Ms. Chen, I owe your species an apology. We didn't realize we were in the presence of the galaxy's ultimate survivors. She smiled, another uniquely human expression he was only beginning to understand. Don't worry about it, Doc. We're used to being underestimated. Usually works in our favor eventually. As Zethkar signed off on humanity's full Confederation membership, he made a personal note to recommend humans for the Frontier Corps. The galaxy's deadliest worlds had finally met their match. The barbarians from Sol 3 were going to change everything.